Among the noise and movement stood a small blue building with a rusty roof. A signboard hung in front of it, written in bold letter read, Mama Julia Delight, best food in town. The smell of stew and fried plantain filled the air. Hungry people walking by could not resist stopping. Inside, Julia, a tall, dark-skinned woman with a big curvy L, moved around quickly in her white apron. Her pots were always full, her plate always ready. She smiled at everyone, her tooth always shining. But what no one saw was what went on behind the pot. One hot afternoon, two friends called Michael and David stood by the roadside. David said, Michael, I'm starving. Where can we eat? Everywhere is far. Michael replied, pointing at a blue house, Look, there's a new restaurant. Mama Julia, they say our food is sweet. Let's try it. David said, Are you sure? The place doesn't look too clean. Michael said, Forget that. You worry too much. Food is food. Let's go. So they entered the restaurants. The small restaurant was crowded. Wooden tables and chairs were arranged outside. Some had stains of old soup. Fly blew around them. But the customers didn't mind. They laughed, ate, and licked their fingers. Julia came out to their table with a smile. She said, Welcome, my sons. What will you eat today? Rice and stew, beans, or my special soup? Michael said, Give me rice with stew. Michael said, Just small beans for me. She hurried off and soon big plates of delicious food were placed in front of them. The smell was strong, spice mixed with something strange, something they could not place. Michael said, taking a bite, This is good. The stew is sweet indeed. David replied, eating slowly, This is tasty, but I feel something odd, like the taste is too heavy. They kept eating, not knowing the truth behind the pot. Across the road lived Miss Grace, an old woman who sold fruits. She had watched Mama Julia restaurant since it opened. She couldn't shake her head when she saw people rushing inside. One afternoon, her granddaughter Anna asked her, Grandmother, why don't you ever buy food for Mama Julia? Everyone eat there. Mrs. Grace frowning said, Child, not everything that shines is gold. I see how she cooks. She doesn't wash her plate well. Sometimes, I notice her using the same spoon she licked to scratch the soup. Anna's eyes wide. Really? Miss Grace said, Yes, and yesterday, I saw something worse. She scratched her armpit and then used the same hand to taste her food. People don't know. They just rush to eat. Anna's face twisted in disgust. But still, every evening, the restaurant was full. By evening, Michael and David were walking back home. When David held his stomach, Michael, my stomach is turning. Michael replied, laughing, Maybe you ate too much. David said, No, this is not ordinary. I feel like something is boiling inside me. Before long, he bent by the roadside, holding his belly in pain. Michael also began to feel weak. Michael said, Maybe it's the food. We need to get home quickly. They struggled, sweating, their faces play. Back at the restaurant, Julia's kitchen, the truth showed itself. She stood before her big pots, scream rising. She lifted her hand and wiped sweat from her armpits. Then, with the same hand, she steamed the soup. She smiled to herself. They don't know. They just eat and they will come back tomorrow. Behind her, the backyard was messy. Broken chairs, old things, and dirty buckets lay scattered. Yet, her food business continued to grow. That night, Miss Grace told her neighbor, Mr. John, about what she had seen. Miss Grace said, Mark my word, something is not right with that food. One day, people will regret eating there. Mr. John said, But everyone says it tastes good. Miss Grace replied, Good taste doesn't make clean. Watch and see. And true to her word, that same night, voices rose in the neighborhood. People were rushing to the hospital, holding their stomach. The first whispers began, Maybe it's Mama Julia food. The evening was restless in Greenhill town. The small clinic by the junction overflowed with people holding their stomachs, groaning in pain. The doctor, a slim man with glasses, shook his head as he examined one patient after another. The doctor said, What did you all eat today? Voices from the crowd Rice and stew, beans from the new place, Mama Julia delight, fried plantain. The doctor eyes narrowed. All from the same restaurant. The patient nodded weakly. Word spread quickly. By morning, half the neighborhood was talking. At the roadside, Miss Grace, who sold fruit, was busy telling her customers, "Didn't I warn you? That woman doesn't cook clean. I have seen her with my own eyes. She stirs the pot carelessly. She doesn't wash her hands properly. I cannot even say the rest." The three customers listened closely, shocked. The first woman said, "But her food tasted so good." The second woman said, "Good taste can still hide death. Maybe she had secret in her kitchen." Miss Grace said, "Secret or not, sickness is sickness. You people should be careful." Anna, her granddaughter, whispered, "Grandmother, maybe you should report her." Miss Grace nodding slowly. "We will see. If more people fell sick, the truth will come out." At Michael's house, he lay weak on his bed. His mother, Miss Clara, found him while speaking angrily. "Who told you to eat there? Didn't you know better than to trust any new cook?" Michael said, "I didn't know, Mama. The food was sweet. Everyone eats there." Meanwhile, at David's house, his father was furious. He said, "David, you could have died. Tomorrow I am going there myself. This woman must explain what she puts in her food." Back at the Blue House, business went on as usual. Mama Julia stood in front of her pot, her white apron stained, her face glowing with sweat. Customers still came, though fewer than before. She smiled as she served food, but when she turned back to her kitchen, her smile faded. She looked at her pot and mourned. They complained, but they would still eat. Hunger will always bring them back. But not everyone was convinced anymore. That afternoon, Mr. Paul, David's father, marched into the restaurant with two neighbors. His waist was loud. Mr. Paul said, "Julia, what are you serving people? My son almost died after eating here." The restaurants grew silent. Others customers paused their spoon halfway to their mats. Julia quickly smiled, trying to calm the tension. My brother, maybe it was something else he ate at home. My food is clean." Mr. Paul said, "Don't lie to me. The doctor said many people came yesterday and they all ate here. Customers at the corner. It's true. My neighbor was at the clinic too." Murmurs filled the air. Julia's face twisted, but she still forced a smile. "People love to talk. My food is the best in town. Don't let jealousy spoil my name." Behind the scene, later that evening, after most customers had gone, Mama Julia carried a big pot to the back of her house. She set it on the fire again and began mixing. She wiped her arm with a cloth, then dipped the same cloth into the stew. Her younger helper rose, looked at her nervously. She said, "Mama, should I wash the spoons and plate first? They are very dirty." Julia snapped, "Leave them. Just mix with water and bring them back. Who has time for washing every moment? Customers are waiting." Rose bit her lips but obeyed. That night, Miss Grace stood at her gate, watching the Blue House. She saw Julia standing under the moonlight. She whispered to Anna, "Mark my word, this is only the beginning. Something bigger will happen soon." Anna shivered. In the distance, a dog barked, and the sound of Julia's pot echoed in the night. Morning broke in Greenhill town. The sun rose high, but instead of the usual laughter and shouting, there was gossiping everywhere. People whispered at the market, at the bus stop, and even at the churchyard. The talk was the same. "Mama Julia's food is making people sick. Did you hear about the hospital last night? Should we still eat there or not?" Despite the rumors, some stubborn customers still lined up at the Blue House. Hunger does not listen to warning. By afternoon, a group of concerned neighbors gathered at the small town square. People present was Mr. John, David's father, Miss Grace, Mr. Paul, Samuel, and so on and so forth. Mr. Paul said, "Enough is enough. My son nearly died. Others too. Are we going to allow this woman to poison the whole town?" Miss Grace said, "I have been saying it for weeks. I see her with my own eyes. She doesn't cook clean. She doesn't wash properly. She stains the pot anyhow." Mr. John said, "Then what do we do? Should we call the health officers? Revenge somewhere." Raising his head, "Let's be careful. We need proof. If we accuse her without evidence, she will deny it and people will say we are trying to spoil her business. The group nodded in agreement. That evening, Michael, though still weak, decided to join David. Together, they sneaked behind Mama Julia's restaurant. They crawled low behind the broken fence, peeping into the backyard. But what they saw shocked them. Mama Julia was cooking again. Instead of washing her vegetable, she picked them up straight from a dirty basket and threw them into the pot. She wiped her sweaty face with her arm, then used the same hand to scratch. Burst. She dropped a spoon on the dirty ground, picked it up without cleaning, and dipped it into the soup. Michael gasped. David, did you see that? She doesn't even care. David said, this is what has been making people sick. They stayed quiet, recording everything in their memory. The next day, Reserve Samuel himself decided to speak with Mama Julia. He walked in as customers ate. He said, Mama Julia, good afternoon. Julia said, smiling, Ah, Reserved, welcome, welcome. Will you eat rice? I will give you an extra meat. Reserve Samuel replied in a serious tone, No, I didn't come here to eat. I came to ask about the complaints. People say your food is causing sickness. The restaurants went silent. All eyes turned to her. Mama Julia laughed loudly. She said, Ah, Reserved. People will always talk. Is it my food that make them sick or their bad stomachs? Have you ever seen anyone die? Some customers laughed nervously, but others pushed their plate away uneasy. Reserve Samuel said, If you are confident your food is clean, then let us invite the health officers to check. Julia's smile disappeared for a second, but she quickly forced it back. She said, Reserved. No need to bring outsiders. My food is blessed. People just envy me. But Reserve Samuel was not convinced. Late that night, Michael and David returned with Miss Grace and Mr. John. They wanted to catch Mama Julia red-handed. They hid again by the fence. This time, Mama Julia was not alone. Her helper Rose was there, washing plate carefully in half a bucket of dirty water. Mama Julia lifted her pot. To everyone's shock, she dipped a spoon, scratched from her armpit, and mixed it back into the food. Miss Grace covered her mouth to stop a scream. She said, whispering, did you all see that? This is worse than I thought. David said, disgust. So it is true. She really does this. Mr. John said, tomorrow this must end. She cannot keep feeding people this way. The news spread like wildfire. Some had already whispered what they saw. Customers all once feed Mama Julia's yard now stood outside angry. Some shouted angrily, no wonder we were sick. She has been deceiving us. We need the truth. Julia came out with her apron, trying to calm them. But the crowd was no longer smiling. The morning sun rose hot and heavy over Greenhill town. But instead of the usual market noise, there was tension in the air. Mama Julia's restaurant was no longer filled with laughter. But instead, a crowd gathered outside a blue building, shouting and murmuring. Hold their stomachs, remembering the pain of the last few days. Others just wanted answer. Mr. Paul stood at the front, his voice loud. Enough of this woman's food. She nearly killed my son. We must put an end to this today. The crowd roared in agreement. Mama Julia stepped out, her apron tied tight, her face still wearing that same wild smile. She said, My people, don't listen to rumors. My food is clean. Look at me. I ate it too. But her words didn't calm them. A woman shouted from the back. Then why are people always at the hospital after eating here? A young man said, Yes, we saw how dirty your kitchen is. We saw it with our own eyes. The crowd murmurs grow louder. Just then, a white van pulled up. Two health officers stepped out, wearing a green jacket, carrying a keyboard. Reserve Samuel, working with them, he said, We cannot keep quiet. These officers will check the truth for us today. Mama Julia's smile faded. She crossed her arms. She said, So now you people bring strangers to my business. Fine, let them come. The officers entered the kitchen. The crowd waited outside, whispering nervously. Inside the kitchen, the officers looked around. Dirty buckets sat in corner, flat bruised on uncovered stew. Look at this. Spares kept beside a leaking dustbin. This is dangerous to earth. Then came to the walls. They cut rows, risking plates with the same dirty water again. The health officers shouted, "Stop! This is enough evidence." The officers came out, faced with the crowd. The officer said, "We have inspected the kitchen. What we found is shameful. The kitchen area is dirty, the water is unsafe, and the plates are not properly washed. This place is not fit to serve food." The crowd exploded in anger. "We knew it. No wonder we all fell sick. Shut this place down. Shut this place down." Mama Julia raised her hands, shouting over them, "Wait! Don't believe them. They are lying. People are jealous of me. This is why they want to spoil my business." But no one listened anymore. The officers pulled down the signboard. They nailed a notice on the wall. "Closed by health authority. Unsafe for food." The crowd chilled, though some shook their head in pity. Michael and David, standing by their parents, exchanged a glance. Michael said, "I told you something was wrong." David said, "At least now everyone knows the truth." Mama Julia stood frozen, her hands shaking. For the first time, her smile disappeared. She looked at the crowd, once a loyal customer, now shouting against her. Her helper rose, quietly slipped away, afraid. Mama Julia whispered to herself, "They have destroyed me, but one day, just one day, they will regret it." Miss Grace, the fruit woman, spoke loudly for everyone to hear. "This is why you must not eat from any restaurant. Clean food saves life, but dirty food destroys." The crowd nodded, and slowly they began to disappear, leaving Mama Julia standing alone in front of her blue building. The signboard was gone, her business finished. Greenhill town felt different after the blue building was closed. For the first time in weeks, people no longer rushed to Mama Julia's delight. Instead, they avoided that corner completely. The once busy smell of stew and fried plantain no longer floated in the air. Children pointed at the locked door as they passed. Traders shook their head whenever the story came up. At David's home, he was finally regaining his strength. His father, Mr. Paul, spoke softly. "You see now why I always warn you. Not every food is good food. From now on, you eat only what we prepare at home." David nodded. "Yes, Papa, I have learnt my lesson. Hungry is not worth risking my life." Meanwhile, at Michael's home, his mother, Miss Clara, gathered the children. She said, "Let this be a warning to all of us. When we see a cheap food, we must ask, is it clean? Is it safe? We cannot just rush because the price is small or the taste is sweet." The children nodded in agreement. Mama Julia no longer came out freely. The once bold woman now hid inside her blue house, setting drowned. People whispered when they saw her. Women in the market, "That's her, the one who nearly poisoned the whole town." Men at the bus stop, her pride destroyed her. She thought no one could ever find out. But Mama Julia was not silent. Inside her kitchen, she sat down with her helper Rose. Mama Julia whispered bitterly, "They have shamed me. They think it is over, but they don't know me. One day, I will open again, and they will come back." Rose said, "Mama, maybe you should change. Maybe you should cook clean. Start afresh." Mama Julia snapped, "Silence! People will always eat, no matter what. They cannot resist food." At the town hall, Reserve Samuel gathered the neighbors. He said, "My people, this is not only about Mama Julia. This is all about us. We must learn to be careful when we eat. Not every restaurant is safe. We should demand cleanness from everyone who serves food." Miss Grace stood too, her voice sharp. "I told you from the start, but you ignore me. Let this be a warning. Next time, someone may not survive. Teach your children well." The crowd nodded, murmuring in agreement.